You ready? House Committee on Transportation will now come to order. The time is 12:47. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Here.
Rainey.
Here.
Ashby.
Here.
Davis. Gomez.
Here.
Harrison Williamson.
Here.
Landgraf. Lozano.
Here.
Lujan.
Here.
Ordaz.
Present.
Patterson.
Present.
Perez.
Here.
Romero.
Here.
A quorum is present. Good afternoon, members. Everybody joining us. This is the House Committee on Transportation. To all those who wish to testify in person today, please ensure you're registered in the electronic witness affirmation machine in the hallway. If you are having trouble with that, you can see the clerk. He will be seated to my right, your left in a minute. Out of respect for the viewers interested in other bills set for today's hearings and the members of the committee, we will respectfully ask those who plan to testify and do not repeat the previous testimony of the person who just spoke before you. We welcome you to come up and testify when your name is called. Briefly state your position. Tell us your name, on, for, or against the bill. For the folks watching at home, the Transportation Committee can take public comments on individual bills for discussion today. For all those interested in submitting public comment, please view the notice public hearing that can be found in the Transportation Committee on the Transportation Committee on the House of Representatives website. When you've selected the notice, scroll down to the very bottom of the website for that information. Members, we are also continuing the practice of waiting to ask the witness questions until the witness is done testifying. If you have cell phones and you are in the audience, please silence them. Lastly, we're going to be calling authors in the order of seniority present. And at this time, the chair moves to correct the minutes for the meeting held on April 5th, 2023. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion prevails. Members, are there any questions before we proceed? Members, at this time, the chair is going to appoint a subcommittee on discretionary funding and allocations, which consists of Representative Davis as chair, Representative Lujan, and Representative Harris. The responsibilities of the subcommittee include verifying the March 1st, 2023 testimony of the Executive Director of the Texas Department of Transportation for the Texas House Committee that TxDOT has allocated 20% of its funding to the 2024 Unified Transportation Program to the Category 12, reviewing TxDOT's progress regarding the Texas Clear Lanes program delineated between the Texas Clear Lanes eligible metropolitan regions, non-Texas Clear Lanes eligible metropolitan regions, and rural areas of the state. Reviewing other methodologies that TxDOT uses when determining allocations between categories of the UTP, determining whether TxDOT has complied with the requirements set forth in the Texas Transportation Code, sections 201.991, subsection D, HB 20 of the 84th regular legislative session, that TxDOT may make discretionary funding decisions for no more than 10% of the current biannual budget of the department. Reviewing any publicly available information that TxDOT used or relied upon arriving at the amount allocated under Category 12, and to determine whether TxDOT has complied with Section 201.991, subsection D. Making recommendations to the full committee on an issue whether 10% limitation set forth in Section 201.991, subsection D, or some other limit on discretionary spending should also be applied to the UTP or to Category 12, and to prepare a full written report to the full committee outlining the subcommittee's findings. This time, the chair lays out HJR 77. The chair recognizes Representative Wally to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman Canales, and members. Appreciate your leadership, Chairman Canales, on this committee over the last couple of sessions, and for the opportunity to lay out HJR 77. So HJR 77 proposes a constitutional amendment to permit additional uses of certain dedicated general revenue transferred each fiscal year to the State Highway Fund. Currently, over 90% of state transportation funds are dedicated to highways and flow from the State Highway Fund.
Give me 1 second, Representative Wall. The chair shows Chairwoman Davis present. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is unfortunate because transportation should serve not just people driving cars, but also all forms of transportation that Texans want to take. HJR 77 would add language to the Texas Constitution that would allow the State Highway Fund to be used on multimodal transportation infrastructure projects. To clarify, this would not require existing funds to be used differently. It would just give TxDOT the option, should they choose, greater flexibility. And by doing so, TxDOT would get that flexibility to support multimodal transportation, such as public transit, bike lanes, and sidewalk improvements. Encouraging these options will improve the quality of life of Texans throughout the state. By expanding these bike lanes and public transportation and sidewalk options, we can ensure more reliable, accessible, and equitable modes of transportation for all Texans. In my other capacity on the Appropriations Committee, Subcommittee Chair for Articles 6, 7, and 8, that includes TxDOT, we always hear our TxDOT folks come in with their LARs. You will find this member supports a lot of those funding requests, whether it's salary increases or FTEs. But the reality is when they do come to testify, there is, and LBB testifies, there is a problem with allowing the agency to have some kind of flexibility to include other forms of transportation other than highways. And this HJR is permissive. It would just allow the agency, should they choose, these forms of transportation funding mechanisms for all of our communities. And so I just want to explain to you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee that we're not trying to stop building of roads. We're just trying to provide other options for communities like mine and yours, that option should they choose to have that. Because over 90, they come in every session, and we try to get flexibility on whether it's port money, whether it's other transportation money other than roads, and their hands are tied in allowing those those type of dollars to be used in our communities. So, Mr. Chairman, glad to answer any questions that you or the committee might have on HJR, and obviously we would love to move this piece of legislation to send a message that we do want to allow for that flexibility at the agency.
Thank you, Chairman Waller. Members, any questions? You've got several witnesses. We'll reserve your right to close. Chair calls Rachel Hale. Please step forward, state your full name and your position on the bill and who you represent, ma'am, please. Chair calls Rachel Hale. Going once, going twice. We will show Rachel Hale is against the bill and not testifying. The chair calls Gabriel Casares. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Gabriel Casares. I am for HJR 77, and I represent Link Houston.
And yourself, is that correct?
And myself,
okay,
that's correct.
Please proceed, Gabriel.
As the executive director of Link Houston, a nonprofit that advocates for a robust and equitable transportation network so that all people can reach opportunity, we envision a Houston where it's possible to be a first-class resident without owning a vehicle. And we stand in solidarity with others across Texas who envision the same for their own communities. For millions of Texans who don't or cannot drive, this vision is far from becoming a reality. That's why we're here in support of HJR 77, an efficient highway fund. Texans need a broad range of options to move around. The dominance of cars and roads in our transportation system makes our air dirtier, our planet hotter, and our families and friends more vulnerable to deadly crashes. TxDOT can be the agency that meets these challenges, but its hands are tied. The state's largest source of transportation funding is prohibited constitutionally from being used for anything other than highways. We support this legislation because we believe that TxDOT should have the freedom to make the decisions that better reflect the needs of all Texans across mobility options. Thank you for your consideration.
Members, any questions? Thank you for being here and thank you for your testimony. The chair calls Terry Hall. Ms. Hall, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Certainly. My name is Terry Hall, and it's with Texas Turf and Texans for Toll-Free Highways. We were one of the groups that worked very hard to pass Prop 7 back in the day. It seems like not so long ago. We are against the bill.
Thank you, ma'am.
I was just about to tell you that we oppose any attempt to once again divert revenue currently constitutionally dedicated to the highway fund to non-road purposes, specifically in this bill, transit bike paths, sidewalks. Many groups, along with TURF and Texans for Toll-Free Highways, work tirelessly to secure more funding for roads, in large part to help stop the train wreck of tolling every road in Texas. So we cannot support any effort to divert those dedicated funds to non-road purposes. And sidewalks and bike lanes, as well as public transit, are already paid for out of local sales tax. There's no state role in paying for local sidewalks, bike lanes, and transit. That really is supposed to be your city and county governments paying for that. This diversion of funds would set a terrible precedent and reverses the progress we've made in ending diversions from our state highway funds for non-road purposes.
Members, any questions? Thank you, Ms. Hall. Chair calls Harrison Humphreys. Mr. Humphreys, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Canales and members of the House Transportation Committee. My name is Harrison Humphreys. I am the Climate Programs Manager for Air Alliance Houston, and I am speaking in favor of HJR 77 today.
And you also represent yourself, is that correct?
Correct.
All right,
Correct.
please proceed.
It is essential we provide TxDOT with more flexibility in how it can fund and plan transportation infrastructure projects in order to adequately respond to the many challenges facing our transportation system today and in the decades to come. As others have correctly pointed out, the current restrictions on the State Highway Fund preclude TxDOT from even considering alternatives to highway expansion. Providing TxDOT with this flexibility is important for a number of reasons, but the closest to my heart is the issue of climate change. I cannot overstate the direness of the situation. The latest UN climate change report shows that collectively, we are nowhere near reducing our greenhouse gas emissions to a point that will keep this planet livable. As TxDOT's own data shows, Texans are responsible for far more greenhouse gas emissions per capita than most everyone else in the world, largely due to the amount we're forced to drive. We must provide more sustainable transportation modes in order to reduce these emissions. I know that many of you may not be as moved by this reason. Most of us won't be here when the worst of the worst of climate change occurs, but our children and our grandchildren will. If any of them were born in the past 5 years, in the past 10 years, the world they will live in when they reach y'all's age will be unrecognizable. By 2050, Texans will be facing nearly 100 days of 100-degree heat every year. We will continue to be ripped apart by drought, massive hurricanes, flooding, and will face issues like food insecurity and water shortages. You have the chance to be a hero for your children and grandchildren and all Texans today by doing what you can, when you can, to prevent this crisis from getting worse. TxDOT has a primary role to play in staving off climate change and a responsibility to Texans everywhere to provide innovative transportation solutions. HJR 77 simply gives TxDOT the flexibility to do what they need to meet all Texans' needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Molly Cook. Ms. Cook, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Hello, Chair and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Molly Cook. I represent Stop TxDOT I-45 and myself, and we are testifying in favor of the bill. And I also just want to say a huge thank you to all of your staffs that visited with the organizers and volunteers who came yesterday on Transportation Freedom Lobby Day. We had a blast, and it was just wonderful to get to talk with all y'all staff, so thank you. My first concern, I'm an emergency room nurse and a public health nurse, and it's safety. I don't work at a trauma center, so what I see every single day is that like slow burn of car culture, and of course we use cars, right? But the dominance, the overwhelming dominance of car culture in our lives. So many people with hardware in their bodies, with aches and pains across their lives, with mobility issues that could have been avoided if we had really robust other options for people to use. Just as an aside, I picked up a dog that had been hit by a car on the road this morning. I'm not kidding. I was like getting everyone in the van to come up here. And it's just, there's just a lot of devastation around cars, and just diverting some funding would make a huge difference. Yeah, affordability. So a lot of people can't afford to own a car. It's so expensive. I calculated my personal cost last year, and it was over $9,000. I don't make that much money. I really, really need other options to get around. And so I do use my bike and the bus as much as I can, but I want to get further. I want to take a train or a bus to Austin, and it's really, really difficult for me. The last thing is choice. We value choice. And right now, TxDOT is making this choice for us. And y'all are making this choice for us, or you know, the legislature as a whole, to force us to choose a car every single time, despite it being dangerous, despite it being my least favorite use of transportation. This policy, HJR 77, is pro-small business. Walkability is pro-small business. It's pro-freight. If we can take regular drivers off the road, we clear the road for freight to get through. This is a policy that will lengthen the lifespan of driving infrastructure. The less we drive on it, the longer it lasts. It'll pull down federal funding that we're missing out on and move us meaningfully toward not only ending the streak, but bringing every Texan home every single day. HJR 77 will allow TxDOT engineers to do their jobs. It allows them the flexibility that they need to meet the diverse needs of Texans in urban, rural, and suburban communities. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, ma'am. Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Melissa Martinez. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, and your position on the bill, please.
Hi, my name is Melissa Martinez, and I'm representing myself as an individual. So good afternoon, Chair Canales and members of the House
And
Transportation.
your position on the bill, ma'am?
4.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please proceed.
So I'm here today speaking in favor of HJR 77 today. And just to give a big picture, as a resident in Houston, I'm a resident in Southwest. So being outside of the city loop, I have my life shaped by transportation. So being from a low-income household, raised by a single mother, we share a single car. And my mother has worked more than 2 to 3 jobs, and having 2 kids, it's a struggle when transportation is just centered on highways and streets. And being as a student and also a worker, it's hard to navigate. So it's been a struggle, whether that be for extracurriculars, attending to go to work, or missing out on classes. There's always things that are missing from my life that I have to miss out on. And it's always been a struggle for my mom to attend for our events or for me to do what I gotta do. And for an example is being here, in person by car, missing out on work and class. Because I'm very passionate about these things, as this shapes very heavily on the struggle of living a dignified life. So part of that bigger picture, as a commuter, there's not only just congestion from traffic, it takes me personally at 2 hours and a half by bus. By car, it's over an hour just to get to central Houston. And why I think this bill is essential is because it gives TxDOT this flexibility to be transmodal in our transportation. And I cannot overstate on the situation for my personal life, but also for others, and how this affects on health, income, economically, and also my own connections in being social within my own communities. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony today. Thank you for traveling down here. That's all the testimony we have registered. Is anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Wally to close the measure.
Oh, sir. Did you call my name? Sir. Rachel Hale.
Yes, we did call you, Rachel. You were not here, but we showed you as not testifying as you were not present, but you can come forward. We will change your current status of not testifying to testifying. Please state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Thank you so much. Rachel Hale, Texas Eagle Forum, and we respectfully oppose this bill because it hurts families. Currently, the federal government...
You also represent yourself, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Currently, the federal government raised the transportation fund and diverts up to 40% at any given time. Furthermore, the federal government complains all the time that the federal fund highway is bankrupt. So why on earth would Texas pass a constitutional amendment to further divert our road funds? Texas is supposed to be known as trailblazers, not trail behind other states, and definitely not copy the federal government's broken plan. I love that our road funds are in a dedicated lockbox, and I do not believe we should change that unless we want to take back the 5 cents from the schools, since they are all now flush with funds, and leave the road fund in the box like it was intended. Thank you.
Members, any questions of Ms. Hale? Thank you for being here. That's all the testimony we have registered. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, Chair recognizes Representative Walden closing the measure.
Thank you, Chairman Canales and committee, and I know you'll have a long agenda. The only thing I would add is the way we fund a state highway fund itself is a diversion from the ESF. And so there is a formula that we divert dollars, because we chose to do that with these constitutional amendments as a diversion. So by definition, the state highway fund dollars that we put into it is a diversion from the ESF. And so all we're asking is flexibility within its existing resources to provide. We're not going to stop providing and building roads for connectivity and congestion relief. That's not the goal of this. The goal is just to allow the agency some flexibility in other modes of transportation. And with that, Chairman Canales, I close.
Members, any questions? This time, HJR 77 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 421.
Thank
The
you.
chair offers up the committee substitute to HB 421. The chair recognizes Representative Lopez to explain the bill.
Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to lay this bill out. I do know that you have a very stacked agenda, and I'll try to be brief, but this is an incredibly important topic, certainly for my community and probably for many others. The committee, there is a committee substitute on this
been laid
bill.
out.
Thank you very much. House Bill 421 would require drivers on all Texas roads to give bicyclists and pedestrians at least 3 feet of passing space. Bicycle fatalities from traffic crashes are on the rise in Texas, and every day cyclists seem to face dangers on the road, often leading to more serious injury and death. In 2021 alone, there were over 2,266, as a matter of fact, traffic crashes involving bicyclists in Texas. In the last 5 years, 364 cyclists have been killed on our roads and highways. Number that certainly TxDOT has been pushing very, very hard to try to, lower that number by virtue of a lot of initiatives of paying attention to what you're doing on the road. This would certainly be one of them. Currently, the Texas Transportation Code requires vehicle passage to be at a safe distance, which is what the language is now, but does not define what that distance is. This bill would set that needed definition at 3 feet. I would just recap by saying this is a common sense bill that is sorely needed to protect the most vulnerable individuals on our road users, and kind of close with the debate that I was having earlier today with one of my friends. I said, coming from an urban district for the most part, why is it that many of the bicyclists that are out on farm roads and the like in rural or suburban environments, why are you so interested in that? And the reality is we should all be interested in that. Many of my constituents get on those bicycles, head out of my district on into the rural areas, and that's where it even becomes more of a problem because of the no shoulders or lack of space, creating that very dangerous environment for them. With that, Mr. Chairman, I reserve my right to close and be willing to answer any questions at this point.
Any questions, Representative Lopez? You've got a few witnesses. We'll reserve your right to close. Chair calls Robin Stallings. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the Transportation Committee. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to speak today. Really appreciate this. Appreciate you all hearing this bill. Oklahoma, Arkansas. Oh, excuse me. My name is Robin Stallings. I'm the Executive Director of Bike Texas, and I'm speaking on behalf of the organization.
And you are for the bill?
I'm for the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, my first time this session today.
Take your time. Go ahead.
So, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and about 32 other states have a law that specifies a safe distance. And it's time for Texas. It's a good law. There's no fiscal note. There's no downside to it. Over 25 Texas cities have passed this as an ordinance with almost identical language. And every time I spoke before many of those city councils, and they all said, this is our signal to the legislature that this should be a statewide law. Because it's a little hard for motorists to know when they go from town to town, say in the Houston area or Dallas area or even around Austin, where sometimes you don't even know that you've gone to another town, and then the ordinance may shift. So it would be much better if it was uniform across the state. This is a good bill. I'd really appreciate you all voting for it. And I'll add one note about the 6 foot for commercial vehicles. There is 6 feet in the commercial vehicle driver's manual encouraging that semi-truck drivers give at least 6 feet because of the wind effect can suck a pedestrian or bicyclist in and under the wheels. It's a problem nationally. And so this would also help ameliorate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Rachel Hale. Ms. Hale, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Hi, good afternoon. Rachel Hell, Texas Eagle Forum. Again, we respectfully oppose this bill because it hurts families.
And yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you. Most cities, even rural East Texas, has designated biking and walking trails. Although this bill seems harmless, it is yet part of a bigger problem, the Green New Deal or Vision Zero, that many Texas mayors have committed to implementing. This is extremely concerning because the unhinged federal government is encroaching on our rights, and rather than pushing back bills are being passed out of committee, like the mileage tax and the private-public partnerships that hurt everyday tax-paying Texans. Republican representatives, we have 3 planks in our platform that oppose these bills in this one. It isn't enough to vote well on social issues and then literally throw Texans under the bus with bills like this. I know transportation isn't a sexy issue, but we are committed to bringing awareness to Texans who have no idea what is happening. In fact, this should be a partisan issue because bills like this literally hurts everyone except the lobbyists who are paid to be here and get your support and figure out how to spend our tax dollars. The legislator's job is to protect our rights, not infringe on them. Please do not pass this bill out of committee. Thank
Members,
you.
any questions? Thank you, Ms. Hale. Chair calls Terry Hall. Ms. Hall, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Terry Hall for Texas for Toll-Free Highways and Texas Turf, as well as myself, and we oppose the bill. Mostly because this is too prescriptive, a 3 and 6 foot buffer being required. It creates a penalty for drivers even if they can't comply and opens them up to moving violations for this. It should remain up to driver discretion. This passing distance is near impossible for some cars to comply with without a lane change. Especially in congested conditions, this often can't be done in time because cars don't let you over. Y'all have been in situations where you put on your signal and no one lets you over. So if they don't let you over quickly enough, then you're going to be stuck slowing that lane down to the speed of a pedestrian or a car. This will cause congestion and traffic. It's probably an unintended consequences because I know it's about protecting bicyclists and pedestrians, but it's likely going to cause some car accidents in order to comply for fear of getting in trouble with the law. And the 6 foot requirement for the anything over a light truck would require a lane change. And again, if there's no lane space available or if it's a 1-lane road, trucks wouldn't be able to comply to get around 6 foot buffer when your highway lanes, interstate highway lanes are only 12 feet wide. So it would force all that traffic to go the pace of a pedestrian for miles and miles potentially stuck behind somebody because there's not that 6 foot buffer. Cyclists and pedestrians share the roads. They don't own the roads. Roads are built for cars and paid for by vehicle owners, and we feel like you shouldn't be punishing cars for just using their roads.
Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Scott White. Mr. White, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Thank you, Chair Canales. Members, I want to appreciate your time and your service to the people of Texas. My name is Scott White, and I represent Farming City and its Vision Zero Texas program. I also represent the El Paso Bicycle Pedestrian Coalition, which is based in El Paso, Texas.
And yourself?
And myself, as a person who rides bicycles, walks, and takes transit.
And your position on the bill?
I am here in favor of 421.
Please proceed.
And I've been passed too closely, too many times, when I'm out trying to ride safely. And I ride for transportation, not just for recreation. My bike is my car. And that's important because this kind of rule protects people. And it protects me because I don't want to drive. I don't want to die out there on the roads. And I don't want anyone to die using Texas roads. This is why we need a statewide safe passing law. It matters when we know some people drive safely just because, and then there are those who will do it only because it's the law. And then there are those who will be safer because we've given guidance to those motorists who now understand they do need to move over, even if they don't get why. I remember when the city of El Paso passed its own safe passing law and how much more visibility it created for the vulnerable road users. There were certainly a lot of drivers who made their displeasure at having to move over to pass me known to me, but they did in fact move over. And they used that 3 feet. It's a small change in the law, but it matters to so many people, like those who saw and moved over, or my friends and families who knew I made it home. At Vision Zero Texas, we believe that we can put an end to the serious and fatal injuries Texas suffers at the daily cost of using our transportation system. We work to make every Texan safe, whether they are in a car, truck, walking, biking, or using a wheelchair.
Mr. White, would you wrap it up? Because your
Yes,
2
sir.
minutes are up.
With this minor change, we can end traffic deaths, help end traffic deaths in Texas.
Members, any questions of Mr. White? Thank you for being here. That's all the testimony we have registered. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? The chair hearing none recognizes Representative Lopez to close on the measure.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much once again for allowing me to lay this incredibly important bill out. I'll just close by telling you the origin of this bill. Certainly came from an enthusiast or a bicyclist, but more than that, it came to me from my time on City Council, which I also served as the chairman for the Metropolitan Planning Organization in San Antonio for the Alamo area. We thought it to be such an important issue that we created bicycle and pedestrian mobility teams within the NPO, simply because we knew that there are particular issues that they had. We created that, and issues like this have come from those organizations. You heard statistics about how many lives have been lost. One life is too many, but certainly where we are today can be improved with this law. And with that, Mr. Chairman,
Representative Romero.
Representative Lopez, just pardon my ignorance, but so if there's a 3-foot law that says how close you can get to the bicyclist, does it also, is there something in the law that states how close the bicyclist has to be from the edge of the curb? In other words, is there a moment in time when the bicyclist also has to allow to pass? How does that work?
As far as I understand, there is not a definition of that. It talks about reasonableness, and so they can literally be anywhere, just as the automobile vehicle operators can have that latitude. The issue really becomes when there is not a curb provided or a shoulder provided. There obviously the only alternative that the bicyclist has is in the lane of traffic. Right. And what this would allow, the primary change is that what this would allow is to define a 3-foot. A 3-foot buffer. If there is a lane, if there's a shoulder, obviously, I don't know about you, but I would certainly ride that shoulder if I was on a bicycle on a highway. So giving them that access, but there's no stipulation that they have to be in that lane.
But there's also nothing that says that the bicyclist, if someone wants to pass or if someone's behind them or if traffic is starting to back up behind them, nothing that says that the bicyclist should move over at least to the right in any way.
As far as I know, it's not addressed. No, it is not. Yeah. And one of the things that we looked at, Representative, was who else is required to scoot over, so to speak. And on farm to market roads, all the county roads within the state of Texas, there is a move over prescription for farm vehicles. It also does not say that they must be anywhere in particular. It says find the most suitable path that you're looking for, and people have to, go around. For those kinds of vehicles, there is a 3-foot rule. Okay. It's similar to this with a 3 and a 6 feet clearance, but that's on farm machinery.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any other questions? Thank you, Representative Lopez. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to HB 421. HB 421 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 648.
Thank you, Chairman.
And the chair offers up the committee substitute to HB 648 and recognizes Representative Gervin Hawkins to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, for this opportunity to lay out this important bill. Members, I have heard from a school district bus driver and others that are in my constituency base who have expressed great concerns and repeatedly have witnessed the carelessness of some motorists who do not obey state law and stop when they see a school bus or when a school bus displays flashing lights and the lowering of a stop sign arm when either loading and unloading student passengers. So we've got to do better in that arena. According to the Texas Transportation Institute, it estimates about 16,450 illegal passings of stopped school buses that occur in Texas each day. And also, according to the Highway Traffic Administration, from 2011 to 2020, there were 218 school-aged children killed in school transportation-related crashes. So it is a problem. Members, I do have a committee substitute for this bill, which seeks to include in the statute the use and mandate of a school bus monitoring system, a camera installed on the school bus, commonly referred to as a stop arm camera, to be used for a local authority or a school district detecting violations described by Transportation Code Section 545.066. Members, there is a lack of enforcement of these violations in the state. The school bus monitoring system will improve enforcement of existing law. Additionally, this bill will create uniformity among school districts in the state of Texas regarding dealing with violations detected under Section 545.066 of the Transportation Code. The bill excludes school bus monitoring systems from the prohibition of photographic traffic signal enforcement systems in Section 707.020, the red light camera ban. House Bill 648 states that the recorded image may be used as evidence in a proceeding for an offense under Section 545.066 or under Title 5, 6, and 7, 5, 6, or 9 in the Penal Code. Title 5, 6, and 9 of the Penal Code is included because we have seen incidents of children being abducted, trafficked, or even stalked at their school bus. The inclusion of this will ensure that the local authority and school districts will also use the stop arm cameras on the bus to monitor and take decisive action to report critical incidents like these to law enforcement. Additionally, House Bill 648 makes it permissible for a local authority or school district that implements a school bus monitoring system to contract to install it. Members, we've talked with the PTA, we've talked to our combined law enforcement organizations, and to adopt the language that ensures that law enforcement authority and their judgment to issue a citation or a charge is there and available. Additionally, the bill would authorize school districts to use a phase-in approach within 2 years of the legislation being effective to begin installing these cameras on school buses. The phase-in approach allows school districts that do not have the infrastructural capabilities to implement the program immediately on all their buses flexibility in doing so. Members, the reason why this bill authorizes a mandate is because the attorneys at Legislative Council informed us in order to have a phase-in approach, a mandate would be required. I have submitted a contingency riser, which would cost approximately $200 million over 24-25 biannual from the general revenue funds to assist with funding a school bus monitoring system. With that, Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask for an opportunity to close.
Members, any questions? You got a couple witnesses. Reserve your right to close. Chair calls Nathan Graff. Step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Good afternoon, Chairman Canales and members of the House Transportation Committee. My name is Nathan Graff, and I am the Senior Executive Director of Transportation for San Antonio ISD, here to speak in favor of House Bill 648. I've got the greatest job in the world. I love my job working with the bus drivers.
Somebody please silence their phone.
Thank you for allowing us to share the story of our school bus camera arm program. What is most important to SAISD is the safety of our students on their way to and from school. Our Stop Arm Camera program began in 2017 when one of our bus drivers asked if cameras could be placed on school buses to record motorists who passed her bus even with the stop arm out. In 2018, we implemented our Stop Arm Camera program, which is unique from others across the nation. Our vendor equips all our school buses with Wi-Fi, around 7 to 8 cameras, interior and external cameras, GPS, as well as a parent school bus tracking app so parents can track their bus on their way to and from school. We also have live video monitoring as well. SAISD is the only school district in our city that has this program. With these additional safety features on our school buses, SAISD receives a smaller share of the citation revenue than other districts that have just a stop arm camera system in place. SAISD has its own in-house certified police officers. They review the video clips of alleged violations and issue citations based on confirmed violations. If a motorist wants to appeal a citation, we have a third-party hearing officer that hears these cases. Almost 97% of violators receive only one citation, and we average around 25 appeals each month. In the 5 years that our program has been operating, our community has embraced it, and bus drivers report that motorists are now stopping. We support Representative Gervin Hawkins' efforts to increase bus safety for Texas school children. Understanding all school districts are unique. Some have internal certified police departments such as ours, others do not. And we believe that the addition of the opt-in language to the bill supports and strengthens the bill.
1 second. Members, any questions? You're Nathan Graff, representing San Antonio ISD for the bill, correct?
You got it.
Okay, thank you. Chair calls Byron Schirnbeck. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Mr. Chairman, Byron Schirnbeck. I'm representing myself in Texas Campaign for Liberty. I'm strongly opposed to this bill. Just 2 sessions ago, the House and the entire legislature overwhelmingly passed a photo enforcement ban on the dangerous and unconstitutional red light cameras. Make no mistake, this is simply a red light camera on a school bus. That's essentially what this boils down to. Every problem that we've had with red light cameras, reversing due process to where you're presumed to be guilty until you prove yourself innocent is there. It outsources law enforcement to a corrupt public corporation. If you're interested, you can just Google Dallas County Schools with their bus camera program. Those are the kind of industries that you're dealing with these. If you want to put cameras on school buses to observe criminal activity at school buses, there's nothing wrong with that. The issue is if you're going to do this, essentially put a red light camera on a school bus, you're going to have the same kind of problems, such as it tickets the owner of the vehicle, not the actual driver. You might not have been driving it and you still get a ticket. I've seen footage from other states that have these programs where the stop arm actually is coming out before the bus is even stopped, and somebody next to the school bus gets a ticket just because they were beside the bus before it even stopped. And plus, this really isn't actually needed. The majority of fatalities that involve a school bus crash with pedestrians, NHTSA statistics show 68% of pedestrian deaths were actually those struck by the bus. Only 9% of all the total fatalities are involving a school bus. This includes where a school bus hits another vehicle, hits not just a student, but somebody walking in the street. The majority of those were occupants of other vehicles. So this is just simply another money grab and a way to get this back into the council. I'd ask you that you vote it down. Thank you.
Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Diego Rivera. Diego Rivera. Diego's painting something somewhere. We will show Diego as not testifying, but against the bill. Chair calls Terry Hall. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Right, Terry Hall with Texas Turf and Texans for Toll-Free Highways, and we do oppose this bill because
And yourself?
And myself. It allows images captured by these bus cameras to convict drivers, and we've worked for decades alongside many other groups to rid Texas of unconstitutional red light cameras. And this would push the door wide open to the same scenario through school bus cameras. Any ticketing program using cameras violates a person's constitutional right to face their accuser. A camera is not a person and can fail to capture the whole situation, like some of them that Byron just described. This is yet another way to criminalize ordinary drivers. There's already other statutes to protect kids and to force drivers to stop when a school bus has a stop sign activated. We cannot enforce, or we can enforce, safe zones without violating drivers' constitutional rights.
Members, any questions? Thank you. That's all the registered testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Gervin Hopkins. Closed. Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay. Representative Gervin Hawkins, thank you. Help me to just clarify. So I know you talked about the contingency rider in the bill, and I thought you said it was permissive, and then I thought you said mandate. So is the bill permissive or not for school districts to require the camera?
The LBB said it has to be mandated.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Okay. Members, any other questions? Please proceed, ma'am.
So, members, you know, one of the things that we have to continue to do is find ways to save children's lives. And so, I believe our responsibility is to find all of those ways to be able to do that. I think all of us have seen a school bus stop and people who are in a hurry right around that school bus. And many children have died because of it. Saving one life is important. And I think it's so critical, not only just with saving the life of a kid through a traffic accident, but also people who are mingling around the buses who intend to do harm. So with this bill, having the camera on the bus, I think is so important to be able to have an eyewitness to certain things that occur that should not be occurring during our school buses. We want to protect our kids. House Bill 648 plans to do that. And that is the intent. With that, Mr. Chair, I close.
Thank you, Representative. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to HB 648. The chair lays out HB 2934. The chair offers up the committee substitute to HB 2934 and recognizes Representative Romero to explain the measure.
Thank you, Chairman Canales and committee members for the opportunity to lay out a committee sub for House Bill 2934. As we all know, Texas is among the fastest growing states in the country. And if this trend holds up, Texas will cross the threshold of 40 million citizens by 2050. As our cities grapple with this explosive growth, we know it's imperative that our infrastructure be properly funded. This proposed study would provide all cities of all sizes the ability to learn and implement best practices for their particular situation. One of the most important tools available to ensure cities have adequate roadway facility funding is in Chapter 395 of the Local Government Code, which is percentage-based transportation impact fees. Transportation impact fees are a way for cities to allow for growth, to pay for growth. Current law allows cities to implement impact fees on new developments in order to offset the cost of capital improvements. Municipal impact fees vary from city to city. I can tell you in my time on the City of Fort Worth Planning and Zoning Commission, our way of funding arterials, and this is not within the neighborhoods. These are the roads that connect neighborhoods. We simply said, pay for your half of the road where your development touches the roadway. Well, if you have a long and linear that goes vertical, you may touch a very small section of that road. But if yours is horizontal, you'll touch a very large section of that road. So it's not fair to the development community that one developer has to pay for a significant part of the road versus a smaller part of the road, and their impact on all the roadway infrastructure is exactly the same. Same number of acres, same number of people that are going to be on our roadways, but a different cost to different developers. So since 1987, the legislature allowed for percentage-based transportation impact fees, which really looks at your impact on the roadway as a whole. Of course, it's in section 395.41. There's requirements. You have to comply with these procedures. You have to have a capital improvement plan. You have to have a hearing on land use assumptions and capital improvements plan. You have to have information about land use assumptions and capital improvement plans available to the public. You have to have a notice on hearing on land use assumptions. The list goes on and on. So what I'm saying is they're coming to Texas. If you're in Taylor and you know Samsung is coming, this is a time for you to get ahead of the game and say Section 395 will allow me to help ensure that this development is actually going to pay for itself. So I'll tell you what happened in Fort Worth. The political pressures that there were allowed for the status quo to continue for probably 20 to 30 years longer than it needed to. So if you were developing a city, which is the best way to build a road? After the neighborhood is already in place? Or do you want the roadway to be built ahead of time and then your neighborhoods grow along that roadway? I can tell you that in cities in Collin County, which is one of the fastest counties in the country, their impact fees are north of 60%. and have been. They're approaching 70%. They're building really nice neighborhoods where parks are not a problem, where park dedications are just to be expected, where other cities, in order to encourage growth, have done exactly the opposite. In Fort Worth, it was in 2014 before we ever implemented Section 395, at which point when we started, we were barely at 30%. So what happens when that occurs? The only way to pay for that infrastructure is through bond packages. Our last bond package, our need was over $1 billion, but our bonding capacity was only $500 million. So what we do when and I'm not telling developers it's their fault, but we have to say to cities as you're growing, develop smart. Don't put it on the citizens that have been in your city for a long period of time. Don't create this bond capacity because you still have to pay the debt. So Committee Sub 2934 will shed light on the issue by commissioning a study by TxDOT in consultation with Texas A&M Transportation Institute. The study will determine at what population level cities should start implementing transportation impact fees, best practices for cities under the determined population level, the effect on cities if they adopt percentage-based transportation impact fees, including on debt accrued through bonds, and the effect of donating potentially a percentage of the fee to TxDOT roads if those TxDOT roads are farm-to-market roads that act as your arterials. Now, there have been groups that are opposed to this study and method of financing arterials will tell you that impact fees will raise the cost of homes. What about the cost of debt? According to the Texas Bond Review Board, in 2022, local annual report Texas cities have over $50 billion in debt, an increase of over $8 billion in the last 5 years. Should we continue with this policy of saddling our future generations with debt or start addressing the problem now? We also, in addressing the builders' concerns, I believe that we should address how this changes affordability of homes and let our cities, our mayors and councils take this study and make the right decision for themselves. At this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I reserve my right to close.
Members, any questions? Chair has one witness, Terry Hall. Step forward, Ms. Hall. State your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Okay, you ready? So it's Terry Hall, Texans for Toll-Free Highways and Texas Turf, and we are for the bill. How about that? Okay, so we actually would like to see the bill go further because we don't want to study. We want to hop right over to impact fees. Okay, so we've long supported impact fees for new development to help pay for roads. Because really what's happening is exactly what Representative Romero has described, and that is the cost gets borne by the taxpayer instead of by those who are either buying the homes or the lessees of those new developments. And that's the biggest problem. And it is congesting our roadways. There's no question about that. So the true cost of developing includes the cost to expand the roads to handle that new traffic. And that cost should not be borne by the general taxpayer, but by those who are either buying those homes or using those developments.
Members, any questions? There being no one else wishes to testify. Is there anyone who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Romero to close the measure.
Thank you, Chairman Canales and members. I look forward to sitting with any of you if you'd like further explanation about how this is implemented in your cities. And with that, I close.
The chair withdraws the committee substitute to HB 2934, and 2934 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 4121 and recognizes Chairman Guillen to explain the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, current law provides that sun screening devices are exempt from tint restrictions if they're not more than 5 inches below the AS1 line on that vehicle. A vehicle's AS1 line means a line extending from the letters AS1 found on most motor vehicle windshields, running parallel to the top of the windshield. The issue with this is that not all vehicles have an AS1 line. House Bill 4121 would help clarify the law by amending the Transportation Code to simply state that a vehicle that does not have an AS1 line may place their sunscreen device no more than 5 inches from the top of the windshield. I can answer any questions if you all have any.
Members, any questions? There's no one registered to testify. Is there anyone who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Guillen to close.
I close.
HB 4121 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 4122 and recognizes Chairman Guillen to explain the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, in our great state of Texas, our residents and visitors take to our roads each day to not only commute to work and to school, but also to venture out and enjoy the beautiful vistas Texas has to offer. And while cars, trucks, SUVs, and commercial vehicles make up the majority of vehicles traveling on Texas roads, motorcycles, ridden for pleasure or as primary transportation, also share the same roads. The Transportation Code governs how vehicles use Texas roads. While motorcycles, by and large, use these roads in the same fashion as their motorized peers, with 4 or more wheels, the design differences of motorcycles and the vulnerabilities originating from those differences creates a need to clarify road lane use regulations in the Transportation Code as they apply to motorcycles. House Bill 4122 addresses that need by clarifying that motorcycles are entitled to the full use of their lane and that other motor vehicles may not infringe on this right by squeezing the motorcycle within its lane. The bill also allows motorcycles to be ridden 2 abreast in a lane, a common practice which responsible and safety-cautious motorcyclists currently employ to protect their lane use, especially when riding in groups. The bill, however, disallows motorcycles to ride more than 2 abreast in a lane, operate between lanes in traffic moving in the same direction, and infringing on other motor vehicles' lane use. This bill codifies responsible road use by motorcycles in order to make sure that Texas roads are safe for motorcycle and non-motorcycles alike.
Members, any questions? You've got one witness. We'll reserve your right to close. Chair calls Andrew Cannon. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, and your position on the bill. Welcome from the Rio Grande Valley.
Good morning, sir. Chairman Canales, committee members, Andrew Cannon, Executive Director of the Rio Grande Valley MPO, also representing the American Bikers Association in favor of the bill.
You're only registered to representing the Rio Grande Valley MPO, and if you would like to represent the Bikers Association, I need to amend.
RVGV is fine then. Okay. I thought I typed.
We will show you as Andrew Cannon representing the Rio Grande Valley MPO in support of the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. I agree with this bill and support. We agree with riding 2 abreast as identified the bill. In the bill, riding a formation provides more safety for a larger riding group and helps assure the visibility to passenger vehicles. Most groups ride in what we call a staggered formation. And while also very safe for the motorcycle rider, the formation can lend itself to the incursion of passenger vehicles into the formation as they perceive more space between riders than there may be available. We also agree with the limitation of motorcycles operating between lanes of traffic moving in the same direction are also known as lane splitting. While lane splitting has a history of some success in California, definitive information on the practice and an increase or decrease in numbers of accidents is limited. Even in California, where the program is legal, motorcyclists are often cited by law enforcement for following too closely, illegally changing lanes, or speeding. Lane splitting does allow for the safe harbor of motorcyclists while in slowed or stopped traffic from potentials of being rear-ended by a motor vehicle, but we must keep in mind the common causes of accidents when lane splitting. Those accidents being motorcyclists ride too close in proximity to adjacent motor vehicles. Motorcyclists must maneuver within limited space between the vehicles. Most drivers are not expecting to be passed by a motorcycle. A driver may suddenly shift lanes without seeing the motorcycle. Drivers who are unaware of the motorcycle may move over in their lanes, narrowing the space between the car and the motorcycle. Motorcyclists who are lane splitting often ride at a higher speed, increasing the risk of incident. Lane splitting can also be dangerous for pedestrians and bicyclists. Finally, the common use of distracted driving. I thank you and the committee for your time and allowing me to bring forward a viewpoint on this very important matter.
Members, any questions, Mr. Cannon? That's all the registered testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on or against the measure? The chair hearing none, recognizes Chairman Guillen to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's no further questions, I close.
Members, any questions, Chairman Guillen? Thank you, Chairman Guillen. HB 4122 bill pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 3701, recognizes Representative Patterson to explain the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 3701 seeks to allow certain three-wheeled vehicles to register in Texas as they can in all other 49 states. The Transportation Code defines autocycles as using steering wheels, which causes registration issues for certain defined vehicles. By clarifying seat belts and steering wheels in the legislation, HB 3701 clearly separates the classification of autocycle and motorcycles. This change does not eliminate any current motor vehicle from the autocycle classification, since all autocycles have seat belts, but further clarifies standards. I'd be happy to take any questions you have and reserve my right to close.
Members, any questions, Representative Patterson? We'll reserve your right to close. Chair calls Joel Sheltron. Sheltron, if you Need to correct me on the pronunciation. Please state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Close enough, Mr. Chairman. Joel Sheltron, I represent Arcimoto, three-wheel manufacturer, the Auto Cycle Alliance, and myself.
I don't have you registered as representing yourself. I just have you as Arcimoto, the Auto Cycle Alliance. If you'd like to change that, we're going to have to stop and change it. So
That's fine.
Okay, so then I will show you as Joel Sheltron representing Arcimoto and the Auto Cycle Alliance, and you are for the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Please proceed.
All right. I'm a former state representative, termed out in 2010. From that point forward, I have handled governmental affairs for manufacturers of three-wheel vehicles classified as autocycles. I'm also the founder of the newly formed advocacy group, the Auto Cycle Alliance. Our mission is to provide state and federal government help with policy and statutory language, providing consistent regulation across all jurisdictions. The Arcimoto FUV is an electric autocycle manufactured in Eugene, Oregon. Its safety management system consists of front-wheel drive, a roof-meeting FMVSS 216A, which is roof crush, crumple zones engineered to mitigate the force of collision, seatbelt harness system exceeding FMVSS seatbelt requirements, and handling optimization. Because the Arcimoto uses handlebars for steering instead of a steering wheel, it does not meet the definition of autocycle in Texas. Since it has an automotive-type seat, it doesn't meet the definition of motorcycle. Therefore, the Arcimoto cannot be titled, registered, or driven in the state of Texas, the only state where the Arcimoto is illegal to operate. In closing, I would like to tell you what the bill does not do. It does not eliminate any manufacturer currently classified as an autocycle from the classification, and it will not create a loophole for true motorcycles to be classified as autocycles. Arcimoto and the Auto Cycle Alliance encourage the changes in House Bill 3701 so that the company can move forward with plans to distribute in Texas, and I hope you will support the bill.
Thank you. Members, any questions? That's all the registered testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? The chair hearing none, recognize Representative Patterson to close on the measure.
I close.
Thank you. HB 3701 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 3023, and the chair offers at the committee substitute to HB 3023. The chair recognizes Representative Lopez to explain the measure.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman and committee members. The substitute for HB 3023 has a change on line 9 where we added or secondarily, so it doesn't have to be just primarily. And we added the liquefied petroleum gas as well. The chairman and members of the committee, I come before you today to lay out House Bill 3023 regarding a change in the state law to allow vehicles powered by liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, to exceed prescribed weight limitations. LPG systems are an excellent alternative to traditional diesel-fueled vehicles, as they allow trucking companies to travel greater distances and save a considerable amount of money. LPG systems can be quite heavy, which prevents trucking companies from transporting more cargo while adhering to weight limitations. This has created a situation where companies are hesitant to adopt LPG systems, despite the significant benefits they offer. State law currently allows vehicles powered primarily by natural gas to exceed weight limitations, but not those that use LPG. This discrepancy puts trucking companies that use LPG as a disadvantage, as they cannot move as much cargo and take full advantage of this alternative fuel. By allowing LPG-powered vehicles to exceed weight limitations, we can encourage trucking companies to adopt this technology and reap the benefits of lower costs, longer distances being able to be traveled, and improved delivery times. This would create a more sustainable and efficient transportation system, benefiting both businesses and customers alike. I urge the committee to consider amending the state law to allow LPG-powered vehicles to exceed weight limitations. This would be a significant step towards creating a more sustainable and efficient transportation system, benefiting the state and its citizens. And if I can tell you all a quick story, in South Texas, we're about 4 hours away from San Antonio, about 5, 6 hours away from Houston, excuse me. And when we have truck drivers that need to go to South Texas to deliver goods and services, it can be a burden to us when the cost of diesel prices are high. So when diesel prices were $5 a gallon, we had a water shortage. Your water bottles that you get like at Sam's or H-E-B, we had a shortage of that. And what I was being told from the local stores down there like Sam's and so forth, the issue was that truck drivers were spending too much money on their fuel and they were not wanting to drive to South Texas because of that. And there were some that did it out of the kindness of their heart. They were like, we're not going to make a profit out of this. A gas tank is costing us over $1,000. And that's one way. If you come back the other way, it's another $1,000. So it was causing us an issue. And so this bill, if we use LPG trucks or hybrid with diesel and the liquefied gas, propane gas, then that would save about 20% in the cost of fuel for our truck drivers.
Thank you. Members, any questions? You have a couple of witnesses. We'll call you back up. Reserve your right to close. Chair calls Keith Strama.
Thank you.
Strama, step forward. State your full name, who you represent, and your position on the bill, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Keith Strama. I represent Hino Gas, and I'm here for the bill. Representative Lopez did a fantastic job laying it out, so I can be very brief. Representative Lopez and Representative Harris are very forward-looking in addressing the cost of transportation.
I apologize. I mean, the chair recognizes Chairman Landgraf is present. Go ahead.
Sorry. They're being very progressive in recognizing the need to find Texas-based solutions to make transportation costs cheaper. Because when you do some of these programs, you need 2 different tanks, which adds a little bit of weight, which is why we need a little bit more on the permit. And this little bit of weight gives you great, tremendous benefits by getting, as she said, 20% more efficiency in your fuel. Propane is abundant in Texas. We produce a lot of it. It is a good solution for transportation, and we really, and from Hino Gas's perspective, which is a company that serves clients throughout South Texas, it is a great Texas solution to a problem that has been acute over the past 2 years, as everybody knows.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Terry Hall. Terry Hall, please, Mr. Hall, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Yes, Terry Hall with Texans for Toll-Free Highways and Texas Turf. And we're just testifying on the bill. I'm sorry.
Yourself.
And myself, yes. We're just testifying on the bill because while we recognize there's unique issues here, we feel like we should caution against exempting heavier vehicles from weight limits. These vehicles already cause more damage than regular vehicles and light trucks.
Ms. Hall, your testimony needs to be about the bill, not against the bill. If you want to register against the bill, I will change your testimonies against the bill. But your testimony thus far is that you're testifying against the bill, is my opinion. So if you want to talk about the bill, talk about the bill. But if you're going to say us what we need to not do, that's testifying against the bill.
Okay. I guess I have to be against the bill then.
Okay, we will show you as testifying
Okay.
against the bill then. Go ahead.
Because exempting those heavier vehicles from weight limits causes other vehicles to have to carry that increased tax burden to pay for that. And that we really shouldn't be exempting based on fuel type. Seems like we're punishing the everyday fossil fuel powered trucks in favor of certain alternatively fueled trucks. So we feel like we ought to stick to just the current weight limits for these overweight permits. And when we start down the road to exceptions, it gets harder and harder to figure out where the line is to stop. So that's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Members, any questions of Ms. Hall? Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Lopez to close on the measure.
Thank you, Chairman. Just additional information for you. Right now, truck drivers are specified to travel on specific roads that are made for truck drivers because they are already overweight. And so these truck drivers will continue to use the same roads that are designated only for truck drivers. And the state of Texas already allows overweight trucks to drive in these roads with permits also, trucks that are overweight. And so They pay these permits, but if you have a company that maybe owns 100 trucks, then that can cost them $80,000 just to be paying for permits. So this would be specific to these trucks. These trucks are only 1,000 pounds overweight, and they also provide cleaner emissions as well for the state of Texas. And other countries are already using it. They already have the technology. The trucks are already being used right now in other countries like Canada and other countries in Asia, as well as Mexico.
Members, any questions? This time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to HB 3023, and HB 3023 will be left pending at this time. This time, the chair lays out HB 1744 and recognizes Chairman Leach to explain the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Thank you, Representative.
Chairman Canales, did you lay out the bill? I couldn't understand you.
I laid it out.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to lay out House Bill 1744. I'm going to be quick and to the point. I know there have been a couple bills filed on this topic this session. I'm not sure whether you've heard any of them yet. I'm just going to assume that you have not. And so right now, members, under Texas law, if a woman who is 9 months pregnant is driving herself to the hospital to deliver her baby, if she's driving in an HOV lane, she is violating Texas law. If she comes back, she delivers the baby, let's say 2 days later, the baby's in a car seat in the back seat, she's driving in an HOV lane, she is now not violating Texas law for purpose of the high occupancy vehicle standards. What this bill will do is to very simply allow pregnant Texans to drive in HOV lanes by themselves with their babies, whether those babies are preborn or born. That's it. That's all it would do.
You have no witnesses. Is there anyone else who wants to testify on for or against the measure, or any questions of Chairman Leach? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Leach to close on the measure.
Thank you. I urge your favorable consideration, and with that, I close.
At this time, HB 1744 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 3313 and recognizes Representative Ordaz to explain the measure.
Members, thank you. DPS suggested the need for this legislation. This law is vague about what color of light can be used as a ground effect in a motorcycle. This is causing police officers to conduct unnecessary traffic stops, wasting their valuable time and providing costly citations to motorists. This legislation clarifies current law by making explicit that amber and white are the only two permissible colors allowed. DPS is here as a resource for any questions. Thank you, members, and I reserve the right to close.
There's no one registered to testify. Is there anyone who wants to testify on for or against the measure? The chair, hearing none, recognizes Representative Ordaz to close on the measure.
Thank you, members. I close.
At this time, HB 3313 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 2902 and recognizes Representative Gomez to explain the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for the ability to lay out HB 2902 before you today. This bill would simply require auto dealers, converters, and buyers who print temporary tags to include a printed statement warning on the cover of the tag, which states that unauthorized reproduction, purchase, use, or sale of a temporary tag is an offense. Our e-tag system is intended to be an efficient mechanism to ensure every vehicle in Texas is traceable. Unfortunately, this is not the reality that it faces our law enforcement and communities, which has an impact all across the industry. Therefore, each step we can take in the right direction is a worthwhile investment. Given the magnitude of a variety of voluminous testimony we've heard on this issue in the past, we understand that temporary tags is a matter. Temporary tags do matter. I'm offering this piece of legislation as one step to help solve the larger issue. I am aware that we have successfully discussed Representative Goldman's bill last week. However, I was working on this bill for quite some time with the Texas Independent Automobile Dealers Association to develop this, and so understanding that it might take a few years to unroll the efficiency of the Goldman bill, hopefully this is something that we can consider together in the meantime.
Members, any questions? We'll reserve your right to close. You have one witness. The chair calls Earl Cook. Mr. Cook, step forward. Please state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Earl Cook. I'm here in the capacity as the Director of Compliance for the Texas Independent Automobile Dealers Association. We are here to support this bill. This bill is a common sense measure. It won't cost the state much to do. It just raises awareness to the issue to ensure everybody knows that if they do this, they knowingly are committing that crime now. Thank you.
Members, any questions? That's all the registered testimony. Is anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? Chair hearing none, recognizes Representative Gomez to close the measure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members. I respectfully ask for your support in the future, and I close.
HB 2902 be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 3126 and recognizes Representative Gammas to explain the measure.
Once again, thank you, Chairman and members, to allow me the opportunity to unroll HB 3126. This bill would simply discern between the words passing and driving past in order to clarify the intent of each usage of either passing or driving past other vehicles. This change would add a quote-unquote intent to return to your original lane to the definition of passing. This was another cleanup bill that DPS brought to us to help clean up or fix a part of the code needed to ensure we're correctly governing and administering citations on this issue. The current definition allows for hazardous conditions and also permit enforcement actions against some road users who utilize the road safely and normally.
Members, any questions of Representative Gammas? There is no one registered to testify. Is there anyone who would like to testify on for or against the measure? The chair hearing none. Recognize Representative Gammas to close the measure.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and members. I close and ask for your favorable consideration.
HB 3126 be left pending at this time. At the time the chair lays out HB 2977 and recognizes Representative Harris to explain the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for the opportunity to lay out House Bill 2977 before you today. Members, this is a very simple bill. HB 2977 states that a contract must be awarded purely based on cost effectiveness and durability of the materials used for road construction and prohibits TxDOT from giving preference on a bid for road construction purely based on environmental, social, and governance criteria. I believe there's a couple witnesses, and with that, I'm free to answer any questions and reserve my right to close.
Members, any questions for Representative Harris? We'll reserve your right to close. You have one witness. The chair called Patrick Tarleton, please. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
My name is Patrick Tarleton. I'm representing the Texas Concrete Pipe Association. I am in support of the bill.
Please proceed.
Without a doubt, Texas has the most robust and structurally sound infrastructure system in the country. Largely, it's a testament to the engineers and construction personnel at TxDOT. Each day, these men and women make material selections based on structurally sound principles and the best available sciences. The reason we support the House Bill 2977 is because any and all material selection by TxDOT engineers should be based upon the resiliency and durability of the product and what is best for the overall health of the system. With that, I'll close.
Members, any questions? That's all the registered testimonies. Is there anyone who wants to testify on for or against the measure? The chair hearing none recognizes Representative Harris closing the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd appreciate the committee's favorable consideration, and I close.
HB 2977 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 3187 and recognizes Representative Harris to explain the measure.
Chairman and members, thank you for allowing me to lay out House Bill 3187 before you today. HB 3187 simply allows car owners to be able to purchase embossed license plates if they choose to do so. Currently, license plates have the numbers printed on the plate, but historically, license plates were stamped and the plate numbers were raised. This is called having an embossed plate. With that, we have the Vice President of My Plates, Sean Kennedy, to answer any questions you may have, and I respectfully reserve my right to close.
Members, any questions of Representative Harris? We'll reserve your right to close. Chair calls Sean Kennedy. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Good afternoon, Sean Kennedy, Vice President, License Plates of Texas, doing business as My Plates, and in favor of the bill.
Please proceed.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thanks for the opportunity to speak today in support of HB 3187. My Plates is the official state partner contracted to design, market, and sell specially licensed plates under contract and oversight by the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. My Plates program launched in November of 2009, and since then we have sold over 750,000 sets of specially licensed plates. In doing so, we have generated over $150 million in new revenue towards the General Revenue Fund without cost to the state. MyPlates.com now offers over 500 different Texas specially licensed plates, including state charity organizations, as well as qualifying plates, such as military or veteran plates. Our commitment to the state requires we grow our program to continue to drive new revenue to the state. One of the ways we do so is through offering new and engaging products. This bill will allow My Plates program to offer a limited selection of embossed plates. So as was described, no longer just flat printed on it, but embossed as they used to be made years ago. Due to that manufacturing change years ago, Texans have lacked that choice for an embossed plate since 2009. We do have interest from specially licensed plate customers and classic car collectors who have expressed interest in My Plates providing the new embossed custom plate choice again. This bill will provide Texans with a choice to accent their classic car or retro style on a new one with an embossed plate that will meet all TXDMV safety standards, as all of our other plates do. And if passed, we will be able to offer a limited selection of these embossed plates at a price that will be approved by the TXDMV board. That's all I have to say, and happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions? Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
That's all the registered testimony. Is there anyone who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? The chair hearing none recognizes Representative Harris to close the measure.
Thank you, Chairman and members. I respectfully, I would appreciate the committee's favorable consideration, and I close.
HB 3187 be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 3484 and recognizes Representative Harris to explain the measure.
Mr. Chairman and members, thank you for the opportunity to lay out HB 3484. HB 3484 gives hydrogen trucks the same exemption on weight limit as natural gas and electric battery vehicles, and we just heard Janie Lopez talk a little bit about that. As y'all know, the expansion of hydrogen is a rapidly growing sector of the energy industry, and hydrogen trucks from combustion engine to fuel cell trucks are coming to Texas, and we would like the state to be statutorily prepared for that. I will have a committee substitute that adds a trigger to the bill that says once the feds allow this, then the state law will go into effect, and it will also take out the fiscal note on the bill. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I reserve my right to close.
Members, any questions? Representative Harris will reserve your right to close. Chair calls Terry Hall. Ms. Hall, please step forward, state your position on the bill and who you represent. We have you as on the bill. I would imagine you would like me to change you to against the bill, please.
Okay, so it's Terry Hall with Texans for Toll-Free Highways and Texas Turf, and we're trying to be on the bill, not be against everything, but I guess I'm against the bill because
We're showing you as Terry Hall, representing yourself,
Yes.
Texas Turf and Texas for Toll-Free Highways as against the measure.
Right,
Thank you.
okay. And basically similar testimonies before that when we start down the road of exceptions, it gets harder and harder to know where to draw that line on these things. And we just changed the weight limit from 80,000 to 85, just I think 2 sessions ago. And that already created quite a stir. So the more we're allowing these heavier and heavier vehicles on the roads means a higher cost to everybody else to pay for the damage that they create, so.
Members, any questions of Ms. Hall? Thank you, Ms. Hall. Chair calls Craig Chick. Please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
My name is Craig Chick. I'm in favor of 3484, and I represent the Texas Hydrogen Alliance.
Go ahead.
The Hydrogen Alliance is a organization of about 35 different companies across the state that are involved in all sorts of developments of hydrogen fuel and hydrogen production. Currently, we have Cummins, Hyzon Motors, Nikola Motors, Pilot, Flying J, several different organizations who are prepared to basically utilize hydrogen in its highest, best use, which is transportation. This is only designed for heavyweight trucks. We're just trying to basically, we know that there's federal legislation moving through the process. We don't think that it'll happen before the session ends. But in preparation for that, so that we don't have to wait 2 years, we've asked for a trigger in this bill, and we would appreciate your favorable consideration. We're also working on a TERP bill as well. There would be a TERP program.
You cannot speak about other bills that you're working on.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Any questions?
Members, any questions? Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? The chair hearing none recognizes Representative Harris to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I appreciate the committee's favorable consideration, and I close.
HB 3484 will be left pending at this time.
The chair lays out House Bill 2605. The chair offers up a committee substitute for HB 2605, and the chair represents Chairman Canales to explain the bill.
Thank you, members. This bill was brought to me by the Texas Port Association on behalf of its members. In 2019, Texas ranked first in the nation, its economy, and they support tens of thousands of jobs and generate billions of dollars in economic activity. With 597 million tons, or 25% of the total U.S. maritime freight volume. So by investing in these ports, the state can help ensure that they remain competitive and continue to contribute to the state's economic growth. The committee substitute makes tweaks to the existing Port Access Fund that ensure that all ports will benefit from the fund and the state investments can flow through some of the state's most crucial economic engines. I've worked closely on this legislation with the Texas Port Association, and they've brought several witnesses to talk about the importance of the bill. If there's no questions, I will close upon closing.
Members, are there any questions of the chairman? Thank you, Chair. The Chair will reserve your right to close. The Chair will now call
Chris Fisher.
Chris Fisher. Chris, will you come forward, state your name, your position on the bill, and who you represent?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Chris Fisher. I'm a Port Director and CEO of the Port of Beaumont. I'm here representing the Port of Beaumont, the Texas Ports Association, and myself. So as the chairman laid out, this bill is an amendment to Chapter 55 that has established a port access fund, but has never been capitalized to fund Texas ports. This bill clarifies how the legislature can fund Texas ports if they deem appropriate to do so. It does provide a mechanism for spreading that funding out, and also it for the first time will allow for funding of traditional port projects inside the gate as well as outside the gate. And as the chairman laid out, the Texas ports, and these are public assets of the state of Texas, we contribute about 25% of the GDP of the state of Texas. And so we appreciate your support. I am in favor of House Bill 2605. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Members, are there any questions, Mr. Fisher? Thank you, Mr. Fisher. The Chair now calls Victor Martinez. Victor, will you come forward, state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill?
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee. My name is Victor Martinez. I am the Port Director for Port of Palacios, and I'm also the Texas Ports Association current president, and we are for the bill. As many of you know, the 20 ports represented by TPA boast the largest container port, the largest break bulk gateway, the leading energy export gateway, and the largest revenue tonnage port in the United States. We want to remain leaders for our state and for our nation. You have the opportunity to fund ports in a way that they have not been funded by the state before. If you take a look at the TTI survey of 2021 titled State Funding Practices for Coastal Port Infrastructure, there were 11 states studied, and Texas is the only state that does not significantly fund their ports. So, we have the opportunity to change that. So, also, this bill ensures that we have a greater potential for maximizing funding by allowing port development, infrastructure projects inside the gate, as well as port connectivity projects outside the gate. This fund also helps small ports like the Port of Palacios draw down federal dollars with an initial infusion of funding that we would otherwise not be able to raise or match. On behalf of Port of Palacios and the TPA, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. I'm happy to address any questions.
Members, are there any questions of Mr. Martinez? Thank you, sir. At this time, is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against this measure? If not, I'll recognize Chairman Canales to close.
I close.
The Chair lays out House Bill 2606. The Chair offers up a committee substitute of HB 2606, and the Chair recognizes Chairman Canales to explain the bill.
Thank you, members. This bill was also brought to me by the Texas Port Association's 20 maritime port members as an update to Chapter 60 and 62 of the Water Code. These chapters have been amended many times since their codification in 1971 to keep up with modern-day best practices, but additional changes need to be made to allow port authorities to continue to do business and enhance the economic development of Texas. Texas ports are responsible, once again, for 25% of the state's GDP. This bill includes administrative changes that will allow the Texas Port Authorities to be more efficient, cost-effective, and consistent with inflation and changes in the supply chain logistics pandemic response. I have a few witnesses from the Texas ports who are here, and if you have any questions, if not, I will close upon closing.
Members, are there any questions for Chairman Canales? If not, we'll call Chris Fisher. Mr. Fisher, will you come forward and state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill?
My name is Chris Fisher. I'm the Port Director and CEO of the Port of Beaumont. I'm here representing the Port of Beaumont Texas Ports Association and myself. We are in favor of the bill. And as the chairman laid out, it is basically an updating and clarification and corrections in the Water Code for which we are governed, and I certainly will answer any questions they may have. And in closing, I want to say, as being towards the end of this list, I want to thank the chairman and the committee for the efficiency that they've run this meeting. Thank you very much.
Members, are there any questions, Mr. Fisher? Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Appreciate you being here. The chair calls Victor Martinez, Jr. Mr. Martinez, when you come forward, you state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. Again, Victor Martinez, the Port Director for Port of Palacios and also President of the Texas Ports Association. We are in favor of this bill, and again, we want to thank all of you for considering this. Chairman, thanks for working on this, and also, again, going through this meeting well. And so we just ask that you support this bill, which provides efficiency and consistency among Texas port authorities, governed by Chapter 60 and 62 of the Texas Water Code. Again, on behalf of Port of Palacios and TPA, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. Happy to address any questions.
Members, are there any questions of Mr. Martinez? Thank you, Mr. Martinez, for being here. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against this measure? If not, the chair will recognize Chairman Canales to close.
I close.
You have to leave this up pending.
Oh, okay. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute for HB 2606. Thank you, Representative Canales. HB 2606 will be left pending at this time. I don't think I did on the previous one. 16.
Call back up.
What do you say?
Call it back up and do it right.
Okay. And make sure that we.
Just lay it out and then call it back up.
Okay, I made a mistake again. I call up, the chair lays out House Bill 2606, and we're going to, at this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute for HB 2606, and thank you, Chairman Canales. HB 2605. 2605 is the correct number.
Start from the beginning.
Okay, we're going to start over. Chair lays out House Bill 2605. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute for House Bill 2605, and we thank Chairman Canales. HB 2605 will be left pending at this time.
Okay.
Now we go to this. Chair lays out House Bill 3444. The chair recognizes Chairman Canales to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Currently, Texas Department of Transportation operates 25 regional districts. These individual districts plan, design, build, operate, and maintain the state transportation system for that region. Each of these districts is given a designation of metro, urban, or rural. These designations are created internally without public input and are not formally adopted by the Texas Transportation Commission. TxDOT should have a clear, open, and transparent process for district designations. What 3444 requires is to TxDOT pass a rule with the criteria for the designations of TxDOT regional districts. The rules must classify a district with a population of more than 1.4 million as a metro. If there's no questions, I reserve the right to close.
Members, are there any questions to Chairman Canales? The chair will now call Andrew Cannon. Mr. Cannon, will you come forward, state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill? Is Mr. Cannon here? The chair calls Andrew Cannon. The chair calls Andrew Cannon. Mr. Cannon is not present. We'll show him
Representing
the Rio Grande Valley MPO. He's for the bill, and he did not testify.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify on, for, or against this measure? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Canales to close on the measure.
I close.
Thank you, Representative Canales. The House Bill 3444 will be left pending at this time.
At this time, it's the chair's intention to take up pending business. Make sure that your seats are in the upright position and your tray tables are up. Chair lays out HB 1416 is pending business. HB 1416 is Chairman Guillen's bill relating to the axle weight limitations for certain vehicles transporting aggregates. The chair offers that the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 1416 be adopted. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the substitute's adopted. The chair moves that HB 1416 is substituted be reported to the full House with a recommendation do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Ashby.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 10 ayes and 1 nay, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 1939 as pending business. HB 1939 is Representative Raymond's bill related to the route resignation for the issuance of a permit of movement of oversized overweight vehicles in Webb County. This is Chairman Raymond's bill, local bill. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 1939 be adopted. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the substitute's adopted. The chair moves that HB 1939 is substituted be reported to the full House with a recommendation do pass and be printed, be sent to the Committee on Local and Consent Calendars. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
11 ayes and 0 nays. The motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 898 as pending business. H98 is Representative Stuckey's bill related to the offense of passing certain vehicles on a highway, increasing a criminal penalty. The chair moves that 898 without amendments be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There be 11 ayes and 0 nays, and the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 2195 as pending business. 2195 is Representative Noble's bill related to wrong, fictitious, altered, or obscured license plates, increasing the criminal penalty. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 2195 be adopted. Is there any objection? Chair hearing none. Substitute's adopted. The chair moves that HB 2195 is substituted be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass to be printed. The clerk call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There have been 11 ayes and 0 nays. The motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 2678 as pending business. HB 2678 is Representative Cook's bill related to advanced air mobility technology. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 2678 be adopted. Is there no objection? There being no objection, the substitute's adopted. The chair moves that HB 2678 as substitute to be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass to be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero. Landgraf.
There being 12 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 2681 as pending business. 2681 is Representative Frazier's bill relating to the authority of a fire department to remove certain personal property from the roadway or right-of-way. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 2681 be adopted. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the substitute's adopted. The chair moves that 2681 is substituted to be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass to be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out to HB 3577 as pending business. 3577 is Representative Thompson's bill relating to the issuance of title to the salvage pool operated for certain motor vehicles. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 3577 be adopted. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the substitute's adopted. The chair moves that HB 3577 is a substitute be reported to the full House for recommendation do pass to be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 3741 as pending business. HB 3741 is Representative Canales' bill relating to the regulation of the Texas Department of Transportation's right-of-way of landscaping. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 3741 be adopted. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the substitute is adopted. The chair moves that HB 3741 is substituted be reported to the full House with the recommendation that it do pass and be printed. The clerk call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 3889 as pending business. HB 3889 is Representative Canales' bill relating to the handling of bids on certain contracts for highway projects. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 3889 be adopted. Is there any objection? The chair hearing none, the substitute is adopted. The chair moves that HB 3889 is substituted to be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 4226 is pending business. HB 4226 is Representative Rainey's bill relating to certain temporary motor vehicle tax. The chair offers up the full committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 4226 be adopted. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the substitute is adopted. The chair moves that HB 4226 is substituted, be reported to the full House with a recommendation do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
12 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 1855 as pending business. HB 1855 is Representative Goodwin's bill related to the designation of a highway safety corridors and increasing a fine. Representative Ordaz moves that HB 1855 without amendments be reported to the full House. A recommendation do pass to be printed. The clerk call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
Yes.
9.
There being 9 ayes and 3 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 2199 as pending business. 2199 is Representative Canales' bill relating to or imposing an additional fee for the registration of an electric vehicle. The chair moves that HB 2199 without amendments be reported to the full House. A recommendation do pass to be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 3288 as pending business. 3288 is Representative Canales' bill relating to the notice of the transfer of a used motor vehicle. The chair moves that HB 3288 is without amendments be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass to be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales. Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 3887 as pending business. 3887 of Representative Canales' bill relating to the establishment or posting of maximum loads permitted on certain bridges. The chair moves that 3887 without amendments be reported to the full House. So the recommendation do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harris of Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 4140 as pending business. 4140 is Representative Lujan's bill relating to the authority of the Texas Department of Transportation to provide department services to federal military property. The chair moves that 4140 without amendments be reported to the full House. Of recommendation do pass to be printed. Clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis.
Aye.
Gomez. Harrison Williamson.
Aye.
Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 677 as pending business. HB 677 is Representative Jaton's bill related to the highway toll exemption for public school buses. The chair offers that the committee substitute and moves that the substitute to HB 677 be adopted. Is there any objection? The chair, hearing none, the substitute's adopted. The chair moves that HB 677 is substituted be reported to the full House with the recommendation do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis.
Aye.
Gomez. Harrison Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 3125 as pending business. This is Representative Gomez's bill relating to the use of certain lighting equipment and authorized immersive vehicles. The chair moves that HB 3125 without amendments be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass and be printed. The clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harrison Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. The chair lays out HB 4797 as pending business. 4797 is Representative Romero's bill relating to the training or the treatment of the toll project roadways during inclement weather. The chair moves that HB 4797 without amendments be reported to the full House. The recommendation do pass and be printed. Clerk will call the roll.
Canales.
Aye.
Rainey. Ashby. Davis. Gomez. Harrison Williamson. Landgraf. Lozano. Lujan. Ordaz. Patterson. Perez. Romero.
There being 12 ayes, 0 nays, the motion prevails. Members, that concludes today's agenda. Thank you for your participation. Is there any further business to address? Chair hearing none. Chair moves to adjourn. Is there any objections? Hearing none, the committee stands adjourned, subject to the call of the chair. The time is 2:33.
Okay, now what did you do? Mr. Chairman?